another sitting week begins in earnest, and a Monday. Out of the gates we have private members' business, and I've got to say I'm just a little bit more chipper than usual, and that is for two reasons in particular. After all, it has now been a year and a day since last year's election, and of course it was when the good people of Spence elected me to this place for the first time. The second reason is that a week ago from tomorrow, the Treasurer got up in this place and delivered his second budget address. It was a budget that works towards easing many of the pressures faced by Australians, and doing so in a responsible way, one that addresses many shortcomings of 9 years of a Liberal national government. It is a budget that benefits many people in Spence across the state of South Australia and, for that matter, across the entirety of Australia. It does so in a measured and targeted way. I'd seldom think that the member for Ford's intention behind moving his motion today was to provide a platform for members on our side of the chamber, like the member for Solomon and the member for Pearce, to spend our time giving him an informative recap of the budget address. I'm sure he was alert and taking notes on the night, but I am certainly happy to oblige the member for Ford, and I'm sure more of my colleagues are just as eager to do so as well. Going by the wording of the motion, it is clear to see that the member for Ford wants a budget that shows fiscal restraint, simple and fairer taxes, make the lives of small business and families easier, and at the same time not add to inflation. The member for Ford certainly drives a hard bargain. If the budget does all of these things, save for one, it turns into a pumpkin and is forever to be an abject failure in his eyes. Much like the bus in the movie Speed, if the bus goes above 50 miles an hour, it will explode. If it goes below 50 miles an hour, it will also explode. This is coupled by a few more elements which I cannot wait to touch on later. But I was raised to eat my vegetables before I could tuck into my dessert. The member for Ford's motion also alludes to the first budget delivered by the Albanese Labor government. The member for Ford even goes so far as to say that our government abandoned all goals of balancing the budget. He's been a member of this place since the 43rd Parliament. It was almost as if he'd sleepwalked through the budgets delivered under the Abbott, Turnbull and Morrison governments. In this context, it is even more fitting to refer to it as the ATM government speaker. The member for Ford's motion also notes that the government spending increased in Labor's first budget. Now, let's examine the ATM's government's record in contrast and see whether the member's motion demonstrates naivety or whether it is just cravenly partisan. The economic record of the member champions is one that saw expenditure continue to rise with each successive Liberal national budget, a record that saw debt balloon out prior to the first pandemic budget. And I'm isolating that period for my comparisons just to be as fair as I possibly can, because unless you're Senator Antic, perhaps a few others too, I doubt those opposite believe that there were any plans or policies in place regarding the COVID-19 pandemic between 2014-15 and 2018-19 budgets. I think we can all remember a time when net debt, sitting around 10% of GDP, was a core aspect of the debt and deficit disaster, according to those opposite and sections of the media. I must say, as the years dragged on, those opposite have gone a bit quiet. I wonder why that might be. In fact, this budget has also forecast a modest surplus in the 22-23 fiscal year, with an underlying cash balance of $4.2 billion. As the Treasurer noted, we aren't to call it a surplus until it is materialised, not just forecasted. The Albanese government is one that shows not just physical restraint, but also the restraint to not sell back in black coffee mugs either. I wonder if they'll put them back up for sale after July. As many of us know, those opposite have, for a very long time, propagated a myth. It's their oldest myth. Blue man, good economic managers. Red man, bad. Sometimes they drink their own Kool-Aid. Cognitive dissonance can be a scary thing, Speaker. Truly frightening indeed. I pray the member for Ford has not fallen victim to it. If so, I hope he listens to our side of the chamber in this debate and puts himself on the road to recovery. Get better soon. Thank you.